Like for me, writing is something that I enjoy the most, and if it's not me, then it just feels sort of not as unique as what it needs to be. As a writer, because I'm trying to tell stories, if I'm feeling something and I can't write it down on paper, then the battle is lost. If it doesn't work, don't do it. You know what I mean? It has to, ultimately the song has to win or the video has to win when you're collaborating with people. It's not about egos.
Talking about videos, we've noticed that you invest a lot of time and effort into getting your music videos made. How important do you think music videos are for an independent musicians in today's day and time?
So I'll be very honest, okay? My philosophy towards music videos has changed drastically. When I was starting out, YouTube was a very different place, right? This is 5 years ago. And I feel it was a great discovery tool. Spotify wasn't as big. There was a lot of these platforms were just sort of things. So YouTube was a place to discover new music, right? And I felt like there was an opportunity there because all the indie content that I saw was very DIY. It was a guy in a room singing on an acoustic guitar. I felt I had the vision to be able to execute that, and I think the best part about moving to Mumbai was being surrounded by creative people around me, right? And I'm generally a pretty outgoing person, so I made a bunch of friends. So Jaskuvar Kohli is this friend of mine who came and shot Better Than It All for me at Rasta, this gig that I was doing, and he made like a nice lyric video around it, and that ended up doing so well. Right, it got some, back in the day, 200,000 views on Facebook. For me, it was like insane. It was the first time I tasted some kind of success with any kind of content, and we started building this journey together where we started doing a bunch of music videos. And the entire idea was that because I'm writing stories that are unique to me as a Bombay based musician, Songs from a Matchbox was completely my life in Bombay. How do you then translate that to the video narrative? So we went and shot all guerrilla in cafes. We nearly got arrested, train stations, in the train, shot with people. So it was as natural as it got. And we also wanted to show a different side of Bombay that, like I said, because I was writing in English, I also wanted to be very different from some of the Western counterparts, right? So, and George Ezra will only have paved green streets, but in Bombay I have dirty streets and a local train to go to, right? So those are the kind of things that we did to make it very, this vision and this narrative became very Bombay, very Indian, and that was the element that I felt was very distinctive from everything that was going around then. I think over time what has happened in the last 5 years, where some of these platforms have become a lot bigger, right? And I feel because I did so much work in the past, I think it's a great brand building exercise from a video narrative point of view. But I think YouTube is no longer such a big discovery platform. Think about it yourself. 5-6 years ago, you would lie down and even with some of your friends and just find funny YouTube videos. Nobody's doing that anymore. So I think discovery has really sort of dropped down, and discovery on some of these platforms which are supporting independent music is gone up a lot, right? So I feel like a music video is no longer just a currency for thing. I think it's still a great brand building exercise. So if you're an artist who is just releasing songs, maybe out of 4 songs that you release, make a really nice one music video. But every song I don't think needs it. Back in the day, I think it was a great exercise to do. But from a brand building perspective, one great music video is great because it also slows you down. It's expensive, right? And I think what's happening with streaming is that you want to constantly keep releasing songs, and with a lot of artists that I speak to, they're ready with their music, they don't know what to do with the marketing and the video for it. So I would say 1 out of 4 songs can have a really nice music video, and collaborate a lot, get to know people around you who are doing similar things. You're sitting in a Bhopal, there might be a guy who probably shoots weddings but has a very, very different sensibility because he actually wants to do really nice films. So find that person, get to know them, understand them, and become a partnership and sort of release music with your same vision. So I would say it's not about, oh, I'm living in a different city, I don't have a crew around me. You build that crew by maybe finding a guy who's always with his camera. Jaskuvar is a guy who used to always be in my college with a camera around him. There were always these people, right? And ultimately met him in Bombay 6 years later, accidentally, and realized we're trying to do the same thing, and we started collaborating. So yeah, music video I feel now is not so important, but it tells a great story. So if you feel your song was feeling incomplete without it, go ahead and do it.
Right. Okay. Now we'll talk about festivals. How does an independent artist play at a festival?
I think it's a mix of two. One is how relevant you are at that time. How much new music are you constantly putting out? How is it doing? So I think that's one prerequisite to play at a music festival. And I think the second is to have a really good live act. So even if your song is probably blowing up on Spotify or any of these platforms, a festival will always only book you if you already have a great live act going, right? And I think both of these stem from writing great songs, releasing them properly, and at the second time doing every gig that comes to you, so that when you're on a big stage, you're not nervous and wondering how to talk to your audience, right? I literally bully people when I'm on stage. I literally tell them that I'm not starting the gig till you come in, because I've understood that human psychology. Like once I get them in, they're not going to go back and sit down, right? So those are things that only happen once you play those 90, 100 gigs and you get a hold of what your live set looks like. And that's when I think festivals start booking you for gigs, because you'll be playing all over the place. You'll hear good reviews from it. People will talk, the industry folk will talk, and that's how you start playing festivals. I also want to add one thing, is that a lot of people ask me, how do you get gigs in the first place? Forget festivals. How do I go approach my bar? And this is something I did where, when I moved to Bombay, I saw the gigs that were happening around me, and there would always be a logo of this event organizer, right? And they'll probably have tagged the event organizer. It still happens, right? Hit those guys up, right? Hit those guys up, because there'll always be a promoter logo there. See if you can reach out to them. Find that on that page there might be a guy whose handle would be tagged, and it seems like that guy runs the show. Reach out to that guy. Tell him I'll do it for very little money. If you have a budget, can you pay me? Do that show. Build that relationship with that guy. If that same event company is doing a small show in the bar close to your house, or an event close to your house, show up. Go there alone. Go meet that person, right? And that's how relationships are built, because all of these promoters, all of these gig organizers are ultimately people who are constantly looking for talent, but they're not going to come to you unless maybe your song has really hit it big. You have to go and reach out to them and show that you really mean it, right? I think that's how I built my network in Bombay. I would just go to maybe an anti-social, have one beer throughout the night, but the third time I'll see a Priyak in the audience, I'd probably go say hi, or he would come and say hi to me. And that's how it happens.
Okay, so Raghav, we have noticed that you have collaborated with a lot of artists throughout your music career.
Yeah.
Be it for playing a set at a particular city, or even your recorded music.
Yeah.
How do you go about collaborations? What are the parameters that you look at, or how do you generally find that particular person that you want to collab with?
So honestly, all of these collaborations have been really organic, right? I just know the people. For me, art is also about collaborating with people, like-minded people. It can be of different mediums, right? So even a music video is like a collaboration for me, because I am trusting that other person to think of their own vision, and our visions sort of collide with each other, right? Or match. I think that's the same thing with a collaboration, where I've been in love with a lot of these artists that I've always sung a song with. Like for example, Shore, Nikhil reached out to me, but I love Nikhil's music. That song had a So Far video that I knew by heart before Nikhil reached out to me. So I love the guy. I built a relationship with him. I think he's a great guy, and I think that's how it happens, right? I knew the guy. I saw the kind of music he was playing. Hit him up, started talking. I think it's completely organic, and I feel when you're doing it for, oh, this guy has so many Instagram followers, or this guy has such great Spotify numbers, I don't think that should make such a big difference. Ultimately, even now, whenever I approach a collaboration, I always tell them that, look, I'll sing on it. If it doesn't work, don't do it. You know what I mean? It has to, ultimately the song has to win, or the video has to win when you're collaborating with people. It's not about egos, right? So I feel that's the most important, where even when I reached out to Hanita, I have a new song coming out called Wo Saat Din, and it has Hanita on it. I sent it to Hanita as like an exploratory thing. She came back to me with something which sounded incredible, right? I didn't expect our voices to sound so good together, but they did. So that's what it is. It's, of course, if I'm writing music in a particular genre, I know, okay, these are the 3 or 4 people that might fit into that genre, but ultimately the song has to win. So it'll be exploratory, but a lot of friendships, right? Just make lots of friends, and if you're really good friends, you will share it with somebody, and if they feel like they can add some value to this, they'll reach out to you on their own as well.
Right. With what you said, that adding value to a particular song, does that also mean that you might have to go beyond your comfort zone at times to basically get the product out?
I actually do it for that because I love it, because you get stuck, right? You're in your own bubble of your head. You get used to certain time signatures, certain scales. When you collaborate with another person, it sort of throws you off completely. Like, I've sung a bunch of people's songs. So when I collaborated with this really talented guy called Khwab, his name is Nishan Nagar, I sang his Hindi song, right? I didn't write anything, but it was such a great exercise because he was correcting my pronunciations. I would never write a song like that. But for me to sing it was a really special thing because I felt my skill level became better. Same with Shore, for example. I sang his song, but you've seen his production. It's so different. I would never be able to produce a song or think like that anyway. So it puts me into that headspace, and it only helps my craft when I go and compose a song. So definitely, I think that's the most beautiful part about a collaboration. Both get you out of each other's comfort zones.
Right. Getting out of comfort zone, you have primarily sang in English, and then you have dabbled into Hindi.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of Hindi tracks coming out.
Yeah.
How difficult is it for you as a songwriter?
Yeah.
To basically write in a different language, because the way you project your emotions kind of changes.
Yeah, I struggled. It was too hard. I think, so I went to a school which is very unique. It's called Sardar Patel, where it's Hindi medium from class 1 to 5. So my Hindi is actually really good. I learned maths in Hindi, geography in Hindi, science in Hindi till class 5. So it's one of those schools which really teaches you both languages really well. But I think in English, and songwriting happened to me at a really young age where I started writing in English. So songwriting for me just meant English. And I think for the last 3 years or so, I've spent a lot of time trying to get better at my Hindi writing, junked a lot of songs. Because for me, as a writer, because I'm trying to tell stories, if I'm feeling something and I can't write it down on paper, then the battle is lost, right? I'm not trying to be formulaic where I'm writing a vague love song. I'm not writing a jingle, right? So for me, this Wo Saat Din, this song that I've done, for me, for the first time, I started writing something which I was feeling. And I didn't need to sort of second guess myself. It flew, like it just flowed really, really well. And that's what made me realize that, hey, this is a song. And of course, over time, I built a really nice bunch of people who are like my sounding boards of sorts, right? So they sort of tell me whether this is feeling artificial, this is feeling awkward. And for me, for once, I felt like this was the perfect sort of first song to start off with. And I think over time, now my skill level in Hindi has reached a point where it's really comfortable. I can write a song on demand. I can write something you tell me, and I can write a new spin to it, and it'll sound beautiful. And I think that's what I needed for me to start releasing music, because I think for the most number of years, everybody's asked me, why don't you write in Hindi? And or get a Hindi lyricist to write it. But you know my music, and I feel like for me, writing is something that I enjoy the most. And if it's not me, then it just feels sort of not as unique as what it needs to be. And I think I took that time to be able to really sit down with my Hindi songs and make them reach a point where I was really happy. And now we finally hit that spot. I also realized that the framework is the same. You know, the syllable count, be it English, Hindi or any other language, the basic overarching framework of writing a song is the same. It was just, of course, the nuances of writing in Hindi, certain words, etc. is what I felt like I was in a good place to be able to start releasing it to the world.
One more question regarding this. Was it an artistic decision or was it a business decision? Or a mix of both?
So I would say that, see, if it was a business decision, I would have started doing it 2 years ago, right? But I'm not denying the fact that the reason a lot of people told me to do Hindi music is because they feel I could be a lot more successful, it would reach a lot more people. Maybe I wanted to keep it the same vibe so that even my English music can be heard more. So I would say it would be wrong for me to say that, oh, it was purely just an artistic decision. I do recognize that I will end up reaching a larger base, right? I can see the interest from a lot of people when I posted an Instagram snippet of the song, right? So I know that Hindi has a certain kind of broader audience base while I'm living in India, but I would say that I worked really hard on this to make sure I was proud of it, because everything I do, the filter has to be that. And I didn't want to be just a business decision because people would see through that. Right? So I worked really hard on it, and I feel now I've reached a point where when you hear the song, people would know what I'm talking about and they would know the kind of effort that's gone into it.